Let us go. Hello, everyone. I'm Wesley, and today I'm going to be reviewing the camera industry in 2024. And I have a little helper here to help me make decisions.
What is thy bidding, my master?
So let's get into it. I recently released a video on camera brands, so today let's dive into let's dive into the 2024 releases from each brand and what I would expect in 2025. And then we'll go ahead and give them a grade at the end because you guys love to see a good ranking. We're going to start with Nikon. I think Nikon had a solid year with releases like the Z6 III, which offers impressive features like the brightest EVF ever in a Nikon body, great low light performance, some dynamic range worries, but they proved to be moot at best, and a partially stacked sensor, which is a first in the industry. They followed up with the Z52 later in the year, which was a great small body APS-C option for Nikon users. And they also released affordable 35mm f1.4 and a 50mm f1.4 prime lens. Now the bad. The APS-C sensor in the Z52 is at 20.9 megapixels. And to me, that sensor feels very underwhelming when there's competitors like the, XT5 that offers a 40 megapixel APS-C sensor. So, and Canons for that matter that offer 33 megapixel sensors. 20 megapixels is a little old in 2024 if you ask me. Now, my prediction for Nikon is that the Z5 is going to get an update in the Z5 II. It's going to have the same 24.5 megapixel sensor with the Speed 7 processor. It's not going to be backside illuminated or stacked, and it's going to be in that $1,500 price range, maintaining the dual SD card slots and a mechanical shutter. I also expect a Z7 III to feature the 45 megapixel sensor, still maintain the mechanical shutter, add a flippy screen, and be around that $3,000, $3,500 price range. All right, that's Nikon in a nutshell. And if I had to give them a grade, I'd say they're solid A. All right, now let's move on to Fuji. Fuji did a lot of good this year, mostly in the consumer market. They released the X100VI, the X-T50, and the XM5. And they also released the GFX 100 Mark II, which is a medium format camera, more geared toward professionals. And honestly, I think that camera is just too big for a street photographer and travel photographer, so I really haven't put much time in it. But it seems pretty compelling for those who enjoy that sort of thing. They also released a new kit lens with a linear motor and internal zoom and water resistance. But, there were no pro-centric X-series bodies released this year. The bad, if you will, Fuji struggled with two things this year: autofocus and inventory. Their new models, the XT50 and the XM5, were great, but they cater more toward consumers with the gimmicky things like that film simulation dial that people like me will never use. And their autofocus issues, I have personally witnessed it on this XT5 that I have here and this XH2S that I'm filming with right now. I've actually seen some videos where this thing is hunted during the video, or pulsed or had some lens breathing issues. So I'm hoping, I just got the new firmware and I'm filming on the new firmware, so I'm hoping it's resolved. We shall see when I get it into DaVinci. That's my two issues with them. They really, really need to focus on increasing their inventory for things that we want to buy, like the X100 Mark VI. The XT50 is very easy to find. Reduce the inventory on that, reduce the manufacturing on that, increase the manufacturing on the 100. Stop trying to drive up market sales and demand by your lack of inventory. That's ridiculous. All right, my prediction for Fuji is they're going to release an X Pro 5 with a 40 megapixel sensor, better autofocus, and they're going to throw the IBIS body or system from the X100 Mark VI in it. Get it done, Fuji. I want that camera bad. Get it done. If I had to give them a grade, I'd say they're a B-. and honestly, they might be a C plus, but I'm gonna go with a B minus because I am a little bit of a fanboy when it comes to the Fuji. It is what it is. What do you think, Darth? Is Fuji gonna release an X Pro 5?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Come on, come on. Anyway, all right, we're gonna move on to Sony now, and this thing's gonna bother me. And shut up right now. Don't even start. All right, let's move on to Sony. Sony continues to dominate the sensor technology, supporting Leica, Nikon, and other bodies. And they also released their flagship A1 Mark II camera and A9 Mark III with the global shutter in 2024. They kind of lacked on the APS-C innovation. They did release the ZV E10 Mark II, but the A6700 is in need of a refresh, guys. Anyway, we'll get to that. But they also released something in the latter part of the year that's pretty impressive in that 28-70 f2.GM. Ooh, if I were to get a zoom lens, that might be the zoom lens I would get. Now let's move on to the bad. CF Express Card A, guys. It's time to trash can that crap. It's not even as good as CF Express B, and every other manufacturer uses CF Express B. So it's time to get rid of that. It's too expensive because there's not anyone using it, and it's not as good. So it's time to jump ship to the B line and get rid of this stupid A nonsense. We don't want a CF Express card A slot, period. I love the fact that you can put SD cards in there as well, but I'm not going to spend $300 on a CF Express A card. I'm not doing it. So figure it out. Anyway. All right. Also, let's talk about my predictions. All right. In 2025, I expect Sony's going to release the A7 IV, which is the regular iteration for non-pros in the A7 line. It's going to probably have a 33 megapixel sensor like the A7 Mark IV. And it's going to have the same autofocus as the A7R5 and the same tilty flippy screen of the A7R5. And an A6800 is on its way too in 2025 because it's time to do that, and it's time to update the FX line as well. And I'm praying that they announce plans to revitalize the RX1 line. Look at what's happening with the X100 Mark VI, the GRs. They're from Ricoh. They're never in stock. Come on, Sony. Get the RX1 out. I would love to buy one in a heartbeat. But seriously, if I had to give Sony a grade, it's A+. I mean, I don't own a Sony body, but I'm admiring from afar. Those guys are doing some stuff. They're doing some stuff. And it's not bad at all. What about you, Darth? Is Sony good in 2025? Are they going to innovate? Wake up.
What?
Are they going to innovate in 2025?
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
Come on. Whatever. All right, let's move on to Canon. Canon refreshed the R5 this year and released the R1, which is their flagship line, and they also released quite a few lenses. A pretty good year, although not without some scrutiny given the sensor size of the R1. And we'll move on to the bad here. And Canon's RF mount still lacks third-party support. Number one, they still lack third-party support. It's starting to come slowly, but they still lack third-party support, and it's limiting your options in lens choice. In addition, the R1 came out with a 24 megapixel sensor, and that did not go over well for some, especially at $6,200. The R5's 45 megapixel stack sensor offers you another option, however, so it's not all bad. But yeah, I'm expecting the R3 is going to come out with a higher megapixel option because the R3 and the R1 are very similar right now, with the R1 being faster, slightly faster than the R3. So I expect that, and I expect more third-party lens options in 2025 as well, as they finally start to open up the mount a little bit. Yeah, so that's what I expect from Canon. If I had to give them a grade, although I don't own a single body from Canon, I would give them an A-. I think they had a pretty good year. new camera bodies, lots of lenses. It's a pretty good year. So now let's move on to Leica. I bought a Leica in 2024 in the Q3, and in 2024 they decided to surprise me with the Q3 43, which I should have waited for, but it is what it is. They also came out with the M11D, which is an interesting option for minimalists as it lacks that back screen, or for people that don't like to look at the screen. It kind of gets you more in that moment, mimics more of a film camera, and that's a pretty good offering from Leica. But it was just iterations on their current lineup. They haven't actually come out with anything new this year, which is typical Leica doing Leica. It is what it is. What I didn't expect was the M11D to be higher in price than the M11P. Leica continues to march at the beat of their own drum, and while some of it doesn't make any sense, I still love the cameras they make, so it is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. Let's move on to the bad from Leica. And let's start with the fact that the Q3's EVF had a lot of screen tearing during using AFC with tracking, and Leica's high prices make it a lot less compelling to most folks compared to other options. And if this was your only camera, yeah, you would be better served to purchase something different than a Leica, in my opinion. Leicas are more of a luxury item than a workhorse. That's just my opinion. But similar to what Fuji did over the last few years, I think Leica's going to focus on lens refreshes in 2025 that take more advantage of their 60 megapixel sensor that they just came out with when they put out the M11P, or the M11 for that matter. If I had to give Leica a grade, I would say they're a solid B. Yeah, solid B. What do you think, Darth? Is Leica a solid B?
Don't force it to happen.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. All right, let's move on to Lumix, the camera that I dabbled a little bit with this year. Let's talk about the good. In 2024, they came out with the S9. It's a full frame camera that's pretty small, similar to the X100V or X100 Mark VI in size, but with interchangeable lenses and no viewfinder. And it's an interesting concept, but it was their only full frame release in 2024. They also released a Micro Four Thirds GH7, and I'm not a Micro Four Thirds shooter. I just think that sensor size is too small for my liking. But if you have that camera and you like it, tell me what you think about it. I'd love to hear more about it. And they finally fixed the S9 later in the year when they came out with the 18-40 f4.5 to 6.3, because that 26 millimeter that they tried to market with it, pure garbage. Aside from that, they released a couple of zoom lenses with macro capabilities. So hey, not a bad year if you're a S5 II user. I just wouldn't put those lenses on the S9 for sure. So as far as the bad from Lumix, I just found the systems weren't for me, but they did prove to be very capable, especially for video. Just didn't like the colors, to be honest with you, and the edit process just wasn't for me. And nothing compelling was released from Lumix this year, in my opinion. I just didn't like the offerings this year from Lumix. And let's not even get started on the 26mm f8 manual focus lens. Whatever, I'll just leave it there. I predict in 2025 Panasonic's going to refresh the S1 lineup before refreshing the S5 with the S5 Mark III in 2026. It's been years since we've seen an S1, so it would make no sense for them to do anything else. Although I have heard that some people say the S1 might be dead, so let's see. If I had to give them a grade, I would go with a solid C. Not bad, not good. You're passing, but you could do better. What about you, Darth? What do you think? Is Panasonic good in 2025?
I'll never tell you the odds.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the OM system. Or OM, yeah. It used to be Olympus, now it's OM system. And they released one camera body this year, the OM1 Mark II. It's well regarded by fans of the systems. I just can't justify the cost to tech ratio. There's far better options like the Z6 III that are in the same price range or even for less money, in my opinion. And it is a Micro Four Thirds system. Again, I'm just not a fan of that sensor size. I don't like the loss of depth of field and low light gathering and so on and so forth. But if you own an OM system and you like it, tell me what you like about it. I'd like to know. Maybe I should try one. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to OM system because I haven't tried one. I'm just looking at what it is on paper. So if you have one, let me know. And as far as like the bad, I kind of alluded to this already, but they're not moving fast enough, you know. And if you're not moving, if you're not innovating, you're stagnating, it's time to start vacating the industry. I'm just saying. That's just my opinion. Like they need to put out more camera bodies. That is just what it is. I predict that we're not going to see very much movement from OM systems though, and their future does seem kind of uncertain. And if I had to grade them, I'd give them a solid D. I mean, they're passing on some scales, but not to me. Not to me. Yeah, so let me ask Darth. Hey, Darth, is OM Systems going to be dead in 2025?
You know it to be true.
I mean, Darth said it. OM Systems is dead. All right, let's move on to Pentax Ricoh. Pentax released a fantastic half-frame camera in the Pentax 17 this year. I have not had my hands on one yet, but I cannot wait to try it. Ricoh continues to push small pocketable cameras with iterations to the GR series. But the bad is, Pentax hasn't released any major interchangeable systems since 2023, and they're still stuck on DSLR for that matter. And Ricoh hasn't improved their GR line in years as well. They keep iterating on the GR3 with the Diary Edition, the Street Edition, the X Edition, yada, yada, yada. They change out the ND filter for high diffusion filter, but they're not coming out with anything new. It's time for them to do that. And I'm thinking Pentax is going to make one last push to put out something that people are going to buy. I love Pentax. I started on Pentax. I hope they'll do this. And I'm saying Ricoh needs to innovate on small APS-C cameras. They're doing it at a snail's pace right now. It's time for the 40 megapixel GR4 Ricoh. Make it happen. If I had to give Pentax Ricoh a rating, I would say they're solid C minus. Solid C minus. All right, Darth. Wake up.
What?
Wake up. Is Pentax Ricoh going to trend up or down in 2025?
I can sense a victory.
Okay. So Darth is saying Ricoh's going to put out a GR4. I love it. I love it. Here's my rankings from top to bottom in 2024. I have asterisks by the brands that I personally own. So I'm going to put them on the screen over here for you guys all to see. This is my opinion based on zero science. So take it with a grain of salt. I feel this is just who I feel is innovating, making compelling gear. And like I said, you see an asterisk, that's what I own. So Sony's at the top, A+, Nikon right below them at a solid A, Canon following in third at an A-, Leica at a B, Fuji, come on Fuji, at a B-, Pentax Ricoh at a C-, and OM bringing up the rear with a D. The camera industry has been kind of in a renaissance with mirrorless technology over the last, I'd say 10, 12 years. And I feel like in 2024, there was a lot of innovation like the global shutter, partially stacked sensors. So we're continuing to innovate in the space, and companies like Fuji are shifting to consumer tech with their APS-C lines and pushing their GFX for professionals. And Leica's just doing their own thing, catering to high-end users with great build quality and a price to match. Sony, Canon, Nikon, they're the true workhorses for all the professionals, and they're balancing that professional and consumer market with their offerings and offering something for everybody. If there's one thing I know, it's a great time to be a fan of cameras. So here's to 2025. I'm excited to see what's next. Let me know your thoughts and your predictions in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Say goodbye.
I sense